For a more dependable, durable, and capable tractor, check out the lineup of high-horsepower Massey Ferguson equipment. The 7700 S Series tractor is loaded with features to increase your comfort and productivity. And if you run a dairy farm, the RB Series balers are built to handle everything your operation demands. Straightforward, dependable, Massey Ferguson equipment. Visit masseyferguson.com to find out more.
Welcome to Inside Farm Life, your weekly connection to agriculture newsmakers, hot-button industry issues, educational features, and the best in true country music. Now, here's your host, Brent Adams.
Well, welcome to another episode of Inside Farm Life, presented by our friends at AGCO. This week, we take another lap around the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois, where we talk trends in used farm machinery and farmland with Big Iron Auctions co-owner Mark Stock. We hear about more great equipment from Fendt and Massey Ferguson and recap AGCO's time at the show with Farm Show manager Aaron Bellinger. And it's harvest time, and we talk with Cenex's Mimi Berlin about making sure you choose the right lubricants as you prepare your equipment for the field. Also, we get our first look at Farm Science Review 2021 with show manager Nick Zachrich. Jesse Allen is along with another Market Talk report, and our buddy the Hot Rod Farmer Ray Bohax is talking battery fill in this week's installment of Bushels and Cents. Finally, we circle back around with our friend Jesse Allen. Did you know he's also an emerging country music singer-songwriter? We'll hear more about that and listen to his new single, Breaking Up These Days, later on in the show. But first, some news. A new report from the White House is raising more concerns about concentration in the meatpacking industry. USDA Radio's Gary Crawford explains.
4 or 5 major meat processing companies controlling up to 85% of the meat market, making record profits while consumers pay more and producers get less.
It raises a concern about pandemic profiteering.
Brian Deese directs the President's National Economic Council, just out with a report detailing the situation in the U.S. meat industry. Deese stopping short of using the phrase price gouging or of opining whether some practices are illegal, but in a White House press briefing he did go as far as to say
these price increases that are affecting consumers are not happening in isolation, and that companies are making decisions to drive these price increases.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack told reporters on the situation the administration will pursue actions toward 2 main goals.
Goal number 1 is to make sure that farmers get a fair return for their efforts and their capital investment. And the second goal is to make sure that when consumers go to the grocery store and at the checkout counter, they get fair prices.
Also at the White House this week, Secretary Vilsack announced more help for drought-stricken livestock producers.
The drought in the western half of the country
could lead potentially to people having to sell their herds because they can't simply afford the cost of maintaining them.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack telling reporters at the White House Wednesday his department's Emergency Livestock Assistance Program, ELAP, has traditionally been used to help drought-stricken producers pay the costs of bringing in water to their operations. But Vilsack says now that program will do the same thing for feed.
We know that these farmers, particularly in the western U.S., are going to be confronted with having to truck or rail feed from far distances, and that's going to be an incredibly increased cost to them. So we're going to use this emergency program to provide up to 60% of the additional costs that they're incurring above and beyond what they would normally incur for transportation expense. And for limited resource farmers, it could be as high as much as 90% of assistance and help.
Vilsack said this will help make it a little easier for some producers to weather the drought and stay in business. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Well, the weather's been a big storyline this growing season. As we hear from USDA Radio's Stephanie Ho, rain can be a double-edged sword this time of year.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey calls moisture, or the lack of moisture at this time of year, a double-edged sword for producers.
Especially when drought is on the landscape, because it's the time of year when rain can really make a difference in soaking in, replenishing topsoil moisture. Evaporation drops off, evapotranspiration drops off because crops and trees and plants aren't using as much moisture.
He says autumn is a key time for soil moisture recharge.
But once soils begin to freeze up late in the year on into the winter season, moisture can't work its way through that frozen layer into the soil until at least spring.
So rain is needed, but
at the same time, heavy autumn rain can disrupt harvests and cause quality reductions for crops that are standing out in the field too long. So again, moisture needed in the drought areas, but not necessarily welcome from the standpoint of crop quality and harvest activities.
Rippey added that there are no expected weather impacts for corn and soybeans.
The Midwest, like much of the rest of the country, expecting mostly dry weather over the next several days. It's going to be on the cool side as you move into the eastern part of the country, but it's still pretty favorable for corn and soybean maturation. At this point, any precipitation that does occur is not going to really appreciably change the outlook for corn and soybeans. I think we're pretty well locked in to what we're going to see with these two crops, corn and soybeans. Of course, as we move into the harvest season, a lot of producers would like to see it stay dry because that does favor dry down and harvest activities.
Rippey went on to say that upcoming dry weather will be helpful for winter wheat planting.
Winter wheat planting will begin to accelerate across the Great Plains and the Northwest, but there are obviously serious drought concerns continuing in much of the West and even across the North, extending as far east as the upper Midwest. At some point, all these winter wheat production areas will need to get rain. They're not going to see it over the next week. So again, good for planting or dusting in the crop, but we will need to see moisture, especially in the dry and drought-affected areas.
And finally, this week, Secretary Vilsack on Tuesday announced competitive grant funding designed to support farm, food, and frontline grocery workers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Rod Bain has more.
For farm, meat packing, and grocery store frontline workers who incurred expenses related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
While it's important for us to give recognition to these incredibly hard workers, I think it's also important for us to provide some level of support.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack Tuesday announcing $700 million in competitive grant funding will be available for pandemic-related health and safety costs for eligible workers. $20 million of this amount will be used for at least one pilot program to support grocery workers and test options for reaching them in the future.
We expect and anticipate the publication of the request for application to take place in the next couple of weeks.
In coming weeks, a separate $700 million suite of pandemic safety and response grants will be announced for producers, processors, farmers markets, distributors, and seafood processors impacted by the pandemic. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
And now, what is your goat saying? That is a pretty sweet shirt you got on there. Did you get that from goatlifeclothing.com? Very humorous and stylish. No, you cannot eat this shirt. I know it looks tasty. goatlifeclothing.com.
Well, next up on Inside Farm Life, with harvest season rapidly approaching, it's time for farmers to make sure their equipment is field ready, and that includes making sure you have the machines properly lubricated. So today I wanted to bring in Mimi Berlin, who's a lubricants marketing specialist with Cenex, to discuss things you should consider before rolling out in the field for this year's harvest. And Mimi, welcome into Inside Farm Life.
Hi, Brent. Thanks for having me.
What's that time of year again? Time to get out and cut that corn, those beans, milo, sugar beets, or whatever else that you may have. And before you do, you have to take care of that hardworking equipment so it'll take care of you. And that means preventative maintenance. Many different types of equipment require many different types of lubricants, and I'm talking about everything from fittings to engine oil. What should farmers consider when preparing their equipment for the field?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it can be a little overwhelming. To your point, there are quite a lot of options and opportunities in terms of product that farmers can use. So when farmers are really gearing up for the fields this season, they should really consider three main objectives. The first is my equipment ready to go? So cleaning that outside, making sure that unit doesn't have any debris or obstructions in it before they start looking on the inside. Now, once they get to the inside, there's two key items. Really thinking through how, planting went this spring. Was there anything you wanted to change when it came to your lubricants? Were they giving you the best protection that you feel your equipment could have? Did you have a lot of downtime? Did you lose your own personal time because of that downtime? So thinking through kind of those objectives of how you can improve your operation, I would say is the first starting point. Lastly, really stock up on those lubricants once you've identified, what lubricants you'll be using for this season. So make sure that you are ready to go. Your bulk tanks are filled. You don't have to go to the co-op or the distributor or the dealer again during harvest season because you don't want to obviously slow it down. So those would be the three main objectives as farmers prepare for this season that I would recommend.
And from your experience, what are some of the common mistakes that farmers make when choosing lubricants?
Yeah, I think lubricants compared to, fuel can be one of the last items on many people's lists. And I think for the most part, I see a lot of folks tend to settle with the lubricant that they've used for years and years, or that their family has used for years and years, or that they heard from word of mouth through another, member of the community. And I think really revisiting the type of lubricants you're using, and even just, having that switch of, hey, am I using the right thing for my equipment and for my own operation? Um, Equipment's changed drastically over the years. So you want to make sure that the lubricant you're using is a high quality lubricant, and it's a reputable brand that meets all of the OEM recommendations as well. And I think another common mistake I really see is um, kind of piggybacking off of that is that farmers don't really think about their conditions. They just think, this is the brand that I'm going to use, or this is the cheapest product. But I mean, we all know the saying, you are what you eat, right? And your equipment's no different. So whatever you are putting into your unit now is going to really set you up for success later or set you up for detriment later. And you could have equipment failure, or worse, you could have a seize up. Um, it's just really important to think about, are your lubricants meeting your needs, and are they giving you the most time and the most efficiency out of that unit?
Well, one of the things that you can do in advance is to do an engine oil analysis. How important is that?
Yes, Brent, that's critical. I would say that's very important when it comes to setting up for the harvest this year. I think a lube scan used oil analysis really gives you almost like a blood test, right, for your engine. But it doesn't apply just to the engine. You can do it in your your hydraulics reservoir as well. So um, a lube scan used oil analysis will basically uh, give you an overall health of where your equipment is at. So when you drop your oil this season to change it out, or you're doing your preventative maintenance before you go into the fields, just get that just get that sample of oil, submit it through a lube scan used oil analysis, and you'll receive a report back that gives you an update on where that equipment's at, how it's performing, and also it will catch any errors or issues that your equipment might have before you head into the fields, which, like I've been saying, it's another time saver for you because you have that peace of mind that that equipment's going to operate smoothly.
And I think sometimes folks don't think, you talk about part failure from not properly maintaining equipment, but also just robbing horsepower.
Yes, that's a good point as well. The lube scan used oil analysis will see if you're getting, I would say, the benefits from your oil and if you're getting the most efficiency. So if you're using a high quality oil like our Cenex Maxtron line of synthetic diesel engine oils, let's just use that as an example. Those oils are blended and formulated to uh, keep that engine cleaner. So by keeping an engine cleaner, removing any deposits, neutralizing those acids that happen during that normal fuel process, combustion process, um, you're really able to get more out of that engine because you're not having those obstacles to go through. That engine, the components in that engine aren't rubbing up against each other. They're not dirty, so they're operating at peak efficiency, and making sure that the cylinder walls and everything are protected as well.
Maybe you've given us a lot of great food for thought here. How can Cenex lubricants help increase power and help equipment run more efficiently?
Yes. So like I was saying, our Maxtron synthetic line of diesel engine oils is a great example. They're formulated with synthetic base oils. So by using a synthetic, you're going to get less friction, which will help increase efficiency. You're also going to burn less fuel because your engine is operating appropriately, and everything's timing correctly. And then lastly, because our products are built with a special polymer called Endurovis, it allows the oil to retain its viscosity from the beginning of the time you put it in to the last hour, which is a huge benefit for farmers because that your oil isn't decreasing in durability. And that is huge when it comes to power and efficiency because you want to make sure those parts are lubricated properly and for the amount of time that you're in that field. So using a high quality oil like our Cenex Maxtron line really can show some great benefits when it comes to power and efficiency for farmers.
And if folks want to know more about the great product lineup from Cenex, where can they go to learn more?
They should visit Cenex.com, and there they can find out more about our Maxtron line, but they can also find their nearest Cenex distributor as well.
Well, Mimi, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Inside Farm Life. And these are all things that I hope farmers will consider as they get ready to roll out in the field for harvest 2021.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Brent.
Again, we've been speaking with Mimi Berlin, a lubricants marketing specialist with Cenex. Many companies promise increased yields and a higher return on investment, but again and again, results show that one company stands apart from the rest. Concept Agritech delivers innovative concepts utilizing the latest technologies in agronomy, biology, and chemistry to enhance soil and plant health with seed treatment, planter-applied fertilizers, foliar fertilizers, and full-season soil treatment solutions. To find out how to put Concept Agritech to work for you, visit conceptagritech.com. Concept Agritech. Technology where you need it most. Back here on Inside Farm Life from Decatur, Illinois, Farm Progress Show 2021, and I'm here with Mark Stock, the co-owner of Big Iron Auctions. And Mark, welcome into Inside Farm Life.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
So for the folks who are unfamiliar with the work of Big Iron, tell us about what you got here.
Well, Big Iron is an online auction company, and we focus and specialize in selling ag equipment across North America. We also have a real estate division where we sell a lot of farmland, and we even sell some livestock now, some really nice fancy bred females and performance bulls.
And these are interesting times in the auction industry here, and we've seen a lot of movement over the last couple of years. Tell me a bit about how the market has changed and why this is a good time for farmers and ranchers to consider auctions.
Well, right now, if somebody has machinery to sell because of the scarcity of new equipment being available, anything that's good and used in low hours is bringing a premium. And in fact, if you purchased an item in 2013 or 14, you're going to recover most of that purchase price by selling it on a no reserve auction right now. A lot of folks that capitalized from the high commodity prices in 2012, 13, and 14 and upgraded machinery, and then made the decision to retire in 2020. And now that equipment's sitting in their shed, they are literally sitting on a pot of gold. Because you can't get anything that's low-houred from a dealership right now. You can't get anything new in a timely fashion. If you order it, it's going to be 6 months at best before you can even consider taking delivery. We just sold a 2012 Tempty grain trailer on our most recent sale. It was a 2012 that brought $38,000. Well, a brand new one ordered today is only a few thousand more than that. However, you can't get it until the spring of 2022. So these grain trailers are real hot. All of the equipment used in the ag sector right now is up 20, 25%, even 30% in some instances on certain types of machinery.
And how have you seen the volume of calls and email inquiries into your place here over the past few months?
It's spiked up tremendously. I mean, we're up 29% year over year on the number of items that we have sold on our website. And this is mostly coming from people who have made that decision to retire, and they're realizing that there is good demand out there, and they just as well sell it now when the market's hot.
So if I am contemplating selling, what are some of the factors that I should consider?
Well, the factor right now is farmers do have extra income because of the commodity prices. They had the spike in corn and beans, and this year now we've even got some decent crops in the majority of the country is going to have a pretty decent harvest unless you're in the Dakotas. But so with that, they're going to be looking at ways to beat Uncle Sam this November and December. So if you have machinery to sell now, basically the stars have lined up, or the ship has come in, so to speak, to get that excess equipment sold. If you haven't used a piece of machinery on your operation in the last 2 or 3 years, you need to seriously consider selling it. If you're thinking about retiring, you need to contact the area rep, and we're covering all over all the states across the Midwest with a lot of our reps. Just get a hold of your local rep and schedule that conversation, because you will be amazed at the information, the data that they'll be able to show you right now on the value of your equipment.
And once folks do reach out to reps, what does that whole process look like?
Well, it takes 5 weeks from the day that they start taking the pictures and the video footage in order to get that equipment on the website. So we always say it's a 7-week process. So if you want to get equipment sold in December, we need to know by the end of October, 1st of November, almost at the latest. So our reps right now, the phone is literally ringing off the wall because we cover such a great footprint. And they're out there taking videos of the equipment now. In fact, they've got scheduled appointments to watch the combine going through the field, and then they'll get it all cleaned up and it'll sell in December or late November. But the steps are pretty easy for the seller. Make the decision to pick up the phone and call us, and then we do the rest. We'll handle everything else.
So earlier you were talking about Uncle Sam. I know one thing that's on the mind of a lot of people is 1031 exchanges. What should folks consider if they think that might be an option for them?
Well, right now we know it's still in play. Okay, we have no idea what's going to happen with what's going on in D.C. They're pushing and pulling all the time back and forth. But if you talk to your tax advisor right now and you want to utilize a 1031, you know what the rules are right now. It's the same thing with any of the estate taxes and the capital gains provisions that might be changing. I mean, they're talking about a lot of changes. We haven't seen anything come into play yet, but some people are scared and nervous, and they want to get some of that equipment sold. They want to get some of that land sold now so they can posture themselves because they know what the rules are.
Well, we talked about equipment quite a bit, but what about land? I know that there's more people that are looking at the possibility of getting out of farming or maybe downsizing the size of their operations. Why might now be the time to look at that?
Well, we've had historic interest rates, low interest rates here the past 18 months. They have crept up a little bit. We don't have a lot of land being sold because it's all in good, solid, stable hands. There are some people that are passing away and they're willing it to their children, and their children are making the decision to sell because even the kids now are getting in that 60, 65-year range. So we're seeing some of that take place. But land values have increased because of the low amount of availability. We have seen real estate sales getting very close to matching those 2014 highs. In some cases, they're exceeding the 2014 highs. You know, everybody's talking about inflation is going to kick in. Well, if that happens, real estate is going to continue to appreciate in value over the next few years. So it's a great opportunity for people that want to get into the market. They're buying, they're adamantly looking. There's way more buyers than there are sellers. So if somebody wants to sell and capitalize on a pretty hot market and a high market, now's a good time for that.
Well, an appreciating real estate market and a tight supply in the equipment market means it's a great time to start looking at auctions. And market folks are interested in finding out more about how you can help them here with Big Iron Auctions. How can they do that?
Well, our website is bigiron.com, and from there you have links to contact us directly, or we've got a phone number 800-937-3558.
Excellent. Well, Mark, we thank you so much for your time here on Inside Farm Life, and we'd love for you to come back again and keep us updated on how things are going in the market.
Hey, I would love to do so. Thank you very much.
And again, we've been talking with Mark Stock, a co-owner with Big Iron Auctions.
Gateway Seed Company was founded in 1997 on a simple principle. It doesn't start with the seed, it starts with the farmer. We pride ourselves in doing all we can to understand our customers' farming operations. We take the time to listen to their concerns, then focus on providing a solution to address their specific needs. Gateway Seed offers seed corn with trait packages from Bayer and soybeans with trait packages from Bayer, Corteva, and BASF. To learn more about how Gateway Seed can boost your yields and increase your return on investment, visit gatewayseed.com. And next up, we want to bring in Arthur Santos, who's the marketing manager for Fendt Planters. And Arthur, welcome in here to Inside Farm Life.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
He's had a steady crowd around him here at the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois, checking out this beautiful Fendt Momentum planter. And Arthur, this thing is really focused on solving customer problems.
Yes, and this is what we have been trying to do. It's busy, it's good. I've been jumping from one customer to the other. And when I talk with them, I really leave the features to the side. We talk about solving their problems, right? Problems that they have in their farms, sometimes they don't even know. But compaction is something that's present in every single farm in the world. So when we bring a planter that it's addressing those problems and it's focusing on the ergonomic part of it, that really connects with the customers.
I know you say you wanted to leave some of the features behind with the customers, but what are some of the features that stand out that make this different from other planters in their class?
Yeah, and I start with the problem that we're solving, and then I tie it with the feature.
Right.
So compaction, as I mentioned, it's in every single farm, right? Every time you have a piece of equipment running in our farm, we are compacting, and this is going to impact the root development. It's going to impact the plant. It's going to affect yield. Thus, it's going to affect dollars, the farmer's pocket, right? The most important thing for a farmer is that end result, the yield and the money. So when we have features such as the automatic weight transfer, weight management system we call low logic, right? Most farmers ask, hey Arthur, what's the difference between this system and the regular weight transfer system that we have on planters? Well, most planters have a switch in the cab. You press that switch, the cylinder moves and shifts the weight. How do you know how much weight you shift? How do you know how effective that was? Got to go back and dig in the tight planting window. So Momentum have smart spindles. We are measuring the weight of the planter in the rims. So inside the cab from the air conditioning, he will choose load balance. He will just choose a mode, and the planter real time will be shifting the weight from the wings to the center automatically based on the measurement of the weight of the planter in the wing. Right? Combined with that, we have the tire inflation system. That's very key for compaction. The tire inflation system is also working real time and reading the same information from the weight of the planter. So you put that planter with 1,000 gallon of liquid fertilizer and 130 bushel of seed, that's a lot of weight, right? When we are at this heavy, we deflate the tires all the way down to 15 psi, and the tires stretch. Why? We get the good traction, we reduce compaction, right? And as you're depleting, as your commodities are going down, the tire inflation is going up automatically, right? You're finishing your field, you want to fold the planter and drive to the next field, right? No farmer plants in just one big field, and everybody has fields across, and you got a road. You press a button, you start to fold the planter, tire inflation goes all the way up automatically. Right. So these are two features that really hammer on the compaction management, right? And the last thing is something we talk about is the pinch rows, the pinch rows. And you may ask, Arthur, what's a pinch row? Let's make it simple. When you have a plant and you have a tire pressing that plant from one side, that's affected row. The roots can grow the other way. When you have tires on both sides, you're compressing that plant from both sides. So any agronomist will say that you are limiting the root development. It's not going to cost you yield. So when we have zero pinch rows with Momentum, the wheels are in front of each other, not side by side. That is a yield killer that we are removing. So when we have these three features, the tire inflation system, the low logic weight management, and we have the inline tandems, which eliminates the pinch rows, we are literally addressing a compaction problem for the farmer.
In terms of ease of use for the farmer, and I know guys want to get out in the field and they don't want to have to think a lot about some of this stuff. They just want it to be easy to operate. What do you have here with the Momentum?
One of the things that farmers really compliment, and they say, hey, this is important, is the one-touch fold and unfold, right? I heard farmers say, hey, Arthur, I have a cheat sheet, a Post-it in my cab with 7 steps. What do I need to do to unfold my planter and put the row units in the proper height? Well, your kid could do this. Get him inside the cab, he will press the unfold button. It will unfold the planter, get the row units down, and the planter will be ready to plant. So this is really that ease of use, making things simpler for the farmer.
The involvement from the Fendt side doesn't just end with the sale here. There are a lot of benefits to owning a Fendt planter here. What do you guys offer, and how do you come alongside the customer after the sale?
A big thing for Fendt is the customer experience. We can't say that enough, and we share that with our dealers so the dealers understand that it's not just a sale, it's a journey that we got to go with the customer. One of the big things we have is the Gold Star, a 3-year full warranty from the factory. And this is not just a warranty, you wait for something to fail and then you replace. This Gold Star warranty gives you peace of mind. It controls your cost, right? On the planter side, let's say you planted the first season. It was amazing. The Fendt experience was great. Now you have a post-season, right? You're gonna store your planter and you gotta start all over again next year. Well, we have the dealer, we pay, it's included. The dealer does an annual inspection of the planter. Why do we do this? We want to ensure that as you're going for the season 2, the same customer experience, the same positive customer experience is there. So a trained technician will thoroughly inspect the planter and do that annual inspection, checking all the little things. So when you go to season 2, it looks like a brand new planter. And if something happens, it's a 3-year full warranty. So that's peace of mind that for 3 years, you don't have to touch your pocket.
And that's so important because every dollar is so precious. And Arthur, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Inside Farm Life. We'd love for you to come back again in the future. Tell us about the latest with planters from Fendt.
Perfect. Thanks for the opportunity. Next year, I'll probably be here talking about the next feature, the next option we are releasing from Momentum, which is a dry fertilizer solution for our Fendt Momentum planters.
So there's your tease. Make sure you come back and follow us here. We'll bring you the latest and greatest when we get it. And again, you've been talking with Arthur Santos, the marketing manager for Fendt Planters. Well, next up here on Inside Farm Life, you heard him a few weeks ago talking about his new podcast, Hay Talk. Matt LaCroix is with Massey Ferguson. He's a baler specialist. And Matt, welcome into Inside Farm Life.
Brent, I'm glad to be here again, buddy.
We got to do it across the phone a few weeks ago, but it's sure great to get to be sitting across from you here in person.
Always glad to be at a farm show, especially when the weather is great as it is out here.
It is absolutely perfect, and you have got a great baler wrapper combo that you've been showing here on the lot at the Farm Progress Show. Man, tell us all about this thing.
Yeah, so it's a silage baler wrapper combo. The model number is a Massey Ferguson 4160V, as in variable chamber, and we call it a ProTech. So it is a purpose-built, full chassis silage baler wrapper combo. So you form your bale obviously in the chamber, put a couple of wraps of mesh on there to hold it in place, and then it moves over to the wrapping station. And while it's doing the plastic wrap on the back, it continues to make another bale through the field. So it's a pretty slick and seamless process, and you can wrap the bale, the plastic in the back. It takes about 38 seconds to wrap, so you're not having to wait on any of the processes, and it's all automatic.
Efficiency, right?
Yeah, all about efficiency. We call it hay in a day. So for most people in most parts of the country, it doesn't matter where you are, you can get down to that 55% moisture, usually in 12 to 15 hours. So you can cut today and bale tomorrow.
How much customer feedback went into the development of this product?
Oh, tons of feedback. To be 100% fair, the baler was designed and developed in Europe, where they do a lot more silage baling than we do. Dry hay in Europe is pretty much unheard of. So our baler is built in Germany. It was designed in Germany and Australia and New Zealand, where they do a lot of wet hay baling. So it was 100% customer feedback, and it came through our latest acquisition that we had a couple of years ago, and we were able to pick up this great baler and bring it over to North America.
I see a new spin-off podcast here, Silage Talk.
Honestly, to push silage and how great silage is for a lot of farmers, I think that's not a bad idea.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that offline here. Maybe there's some possibilities there. Well, we got you here, man. Tell me about Hay Talk. I mean, some folks heard about this a few weeks ago, but I'm sure there's some people that are just jumping into this for the first time, and I would encourage them to go back and listen to the first conversation. But for the folks that missed it, give us a recap of what you got going on there with that.
Yeah, so I speak to industry professionals, university professors, several universities around the country, about when to properly cut your hay, how to cut it, rake it, when to use a tedder, when you should not use a tedder, and different baling practices. And then we even go as far as transportation, and we also go into the maintenance of your balers or your other equipment over the wintertime.
Everything from the field to the barn is covered here, and now you're going to start circling back around, I imagine, and getting a little more granular on some of those topics.
Yep, so the whole idea is we're going to get more in-depth and try to keep them, where they're a nice podcast length. Some of ours got a little wordy because we get a little excited when we're talking about hay. All of us hay guys do. Yeah, so we're going to go back around and get more granular with it and talk more in depth of the different processes, whether it's why should I use this type of tedder versus that type of tedder. So it can be expanded, substantially.
Once you start putting it out there and people start hearing it, do you start getting feedback and suggestions for future shows?
Yep. We've already had some feedback. We've got the idea for at least 2 or 3 more shows already, and we're putting our feelers to talk to some more industry experts and some more professors from ag universities that can give us more, different ideas from their different areas too, because I mean, even within one state, he can be completely different from one side to the other.
Right, and now I'm over here creating extra work for him here, trying to create more shows.
I'm here for it, buddy.
Well, I tell you what, man, we want to let you get back to your day job here and showing off this baler to all the folks here at Farm Progress. And we want to thank you for always taking the time with us and explaining what you got, and welcome you on anytime you want to share more about what's going on with Hay Talk or with balers here with Massey Ferguson.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time. Anytime you want to talk about hay, you've got to tell me when to shut up.
You won't have to twist our arm, because I know there's a lot of people that like to talk about it here, so we'll keep that front and center. And again, we've been talking with Matt LaCroix, who is a baler specialist with Massey Ferguson.
Thank you, Brent.
We're back one last time here from Farm Progress Show 2021 in Decatur, Illinois, and it's my pleasure to bring in AGCO's Farm Show Manager, Aaron Bellinger. And Aaron, welcome in here to Inside Farm Life.
Thanks, Brent. We've talked on the phone. I've seen you here all week, and this is the first time we've actually got to sit down and talk to each other and, really see each other in person, which is great because we're getting to do a lot of that this week.
Right. The only thing we're missing is maybe a pizza and a couple cold beers here, and we'd be all set.
Yeah, off the record, we did that the other night. But, it's been great weather, great people, a great show for us.
And I tell you, I understand you guys have won a couple of awards here at this show.
Yes, we have 2 Best of Farm Progress, one for our new Rogator, which is really a hit. Maggie was the week before. It was Showstopper, the award winner there. So it's kind of on a roll right now. And then the other was for our Fendt 1 technology cab, which we have featured on just about all of our Fendt products now.
And if you don't know much about the Rogator, make sure you go back to the previous episode, episode 10. We featured that on that episode. So what's ahead for you guys here in terms of farm shows over the next few months?
So, everyone's out and about again, so we've got things kind of almost stacked on top of each other. I am headed to the Luke Bryan concert tour.
Oh, nice.
We've got 5 or 6 different dates, one in each state around here: Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and then Husker Harvest down in Nebraska. So I'm going to be crisscrossing the states here the next few days for sure.
From doing virtual shows here a few months ago to going out full bore here, huh?
Yeah, it's been a complete flip-flop. Again, everyone I think wants to get back outside. We've had, again, beautiful weather for this. Just a wonderful time this week.
Well, that's been one of the neat things after being sequestered for months and months, to see people actually getting out almost after 2 years, being able to come out and literally kick the tires, look at things, everybody walking around with their buckets and yardsticks and all the swag they're picking up along the way. It's a beautiful thing.
Yep. It's just like it was before. I mean, really,
Right.
there's really no difference. Everyone is right back to where we were 2019 for sure. And we're planning on coming right back again 2022 over in Boone. I've told you I've got approval to do bigger and better things. So,
which is hard to imagine. If you had a chance to pass through this Fendt and AGCO lot here at the Farm Progress Show, it is huge and it is impressive. And as I've sat here for the past 3 days, I've had more people come by and marvel about the setup that you guys have here. Just really phenomenal. So I can't wait to see how you're going to pull out all the stops up there in Boone.
Yeah, I keep setting the bar higher and higher for myself. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but my number one thing is everybody's walking down the street. I want them to leave that street and come into my booth and experience the great things that I see at AGCO and all the passion that the people here have for all these great products that we produce.
Right, and we got to talk to a number of these people over the past week here at this show here, and very knowledgeable, very passionate, and as they've stressed, when you buy Fendt and Massey Ferguson, really anything AGCO, the relationship doesn't end at the sale. That's just where it begins. So if you get a chance, check out agcocorp.com and then go kind of down the rabbit trail to all the various brands there and check out everything they have to offer. And Aaron, I want to thank you so much for being such a gracious host here, not only here this week in Decatur, but also being a big supporter of Inside Farm Life for the month of August here and into September.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We want to see your success and our success side by side, and this is a great industry to work in, and many years from now.
Absolutely. Salt of the earth people, and we're all going to keep pushing ahead and rising those tides and seeing what comes of it. But again,
Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on down the road.
Appreciate it. Absolutely.
Again, we've been talking with Aaron Bellinger, who's the farm show manager for AGCO, and his work is about to really begin now because here comes the teardown.
Yeah, we're literally 20 minutes away from the second busiest day of my life. First being the day just before the show opens, second being today.
And he got some cool weather for this, so he got a bit of a break here, but you can still see the anticipation starting to build here. So.
Oh yeah. I think everybody has had their 3 days in the sun. They've all got good tans, and they're ready to go home back to their families.
Now is the most funnest part of the farm show, the teardown here. Everybody does everything in half the time, and it is a crazy, wild time.
Sure, it is fun to watch. I think it takes us almost a month to tear down and literally a week to tear it all apart and put it back in. My record is an hour for getting all the small stuff out, but we've got a lot this year, so I don't think we'll break the record, but it'll be a valid attempt.
We will get out of the way and let that happen, and we'll catch you guys down the road.
Sounds good.
Like a championship caliber baseball team, your fungicide has to be tough, and Concept Agritech has the solution many of America's top growers trust. BioAid is an EPA-registered fungicide that delivers an initial contact kill of a wide range of fungal pests and is safe to the user and the environment. To find out more about how BioAid can help you increase your yields and deliver a higher return on investment, visit conceptagritech.com. Concept Agritech, technology where you need it most.
We're here at the Farm Progress Show 2021 in Decatur, Illinois, but we're thinking down the road here to London, Ohio here in a few weeks. The Farm Science Review Show put on by the Ohio State University. And with me now, the show manager is Nick Zachrich. And Nick, welcome into Inside Farm Life.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brand. I just am pleased to be able to run into you here at the Farm Progress Show. We're having a great time getting ready for Farm Science Review. We share a lot of the same exhibitors with the same displays, so it's great to see what's going to be at our show, a little preview for us, and we can talk a little bit about what those displays are going to look like for Farm Science Review just a few weeks away.
Yeah, so I'm sure everybody's wondering. Of course, we had to do it virtually last year, and that was its own kind of experience. Now we're back doing it live again. What's changed from the last time you did a live show, and what can folks expect when they show up there in London?
Yeah, so there's always new things every year. Now it's 2 years of things that are new. So the companies did not stop innovating over those 2 years, and there's a lot of cool things happening. A lot of new companies too, a lot of startups that are doing some cool things in technology. So you'll be able to see some new things that in the drone world, technology world, autonomous. There's a lot of things happening in the industry, and you don't want to miss all the things in our field demonstrations and then what they have to show on their static displays on the show site.
Oh, it's such a good show, so well run and organized and great spacing. And I know that's something that I kind of look around this show here this year. I know there's probably some people that are hesitant about coming because of COVID concerns. What have you guys done to make sure you cover all your bases there?
Yeah, and it being an outdoor show really makes it a positive for everybody. So we're not enclosed indoors. Everybody has good airflow outside, and encouraging our exhibitors to space equipment just a little bit more to allow that little bit more distance between each other. You know, all those sorts of things. And if you aren't comfortable coming without a mask, feel free to wear your mask. It's not a problem. We're not prohibiting masks at all by any means. And there may be even some mandates. So you want to check our website to see what those safety guidelines are going to be right before you come to the show. And at this point, we're asking people to wear masks indoors. There's only very few places that we would consider indoors on the site right now. So if it's a mask mandate for the whole site, that's where we would ask you to bring a mask. But at this point in time, we're all great, and the COVID numbers are under control in our region of the United States, and we're doing pretty well. So everybody keep out there and keep being safe, and make sure you're healthy when you come to the show.
So again, give us those show dates and tell us where folks can get more information if they want to go.
Yeah, September 21st, 22nd, and 23rd is our show this year. You can find more information on our website. It's fsr.osu.edu, and we have a lot of social media presence with Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
Excellent. TikTok. You may even catch them on there dancing. Who knows?
Yeah, that's probably not likely, Brent, but you'll find a lot of cool things. If that attracts people to come watch the TikTok videos, that's great. There's a lot of good things about the equipment we're using on the farm to get ready for field demonstrations, and then things that we're doing on the site to prepare for the show as well all year round.
I love it. Well, I tried. Well, anyway, here we are with Nick Zachrich, the farm manager for the Farm Science Review, one of the nation's great farm shows. And Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Inside Farm Life.
Yep, thanks for giving me the time, Brent. We look forward to seeing you in just a couple weeks in Farm Science Review in London, Ohio.
Well, next up on Inside Farm Life, as we head into fall, it's time to assess the situation in the beef, cattle, and hog markets. On this week's Market Talk Report, Jesse Allen welcomes in Mike Zuzolo of Global Commodity Analytics to do just that. Jesse.
Well, thank you very much, Brent, and welcome into this Market Talk update for Inside Farm Life. This week, we're talking with Mike Zuzolo of Global Commodity Analytics, and we're analyzing the cattle and hog markets as both markets just seemingly can't maintain momentum to the upside here, as we had a week this week where we started off higher for the most part and then we trended lower most days. And really looking closely at both of these markets as we move out of the summer grilling season. We start first with cattle, and here's Mike's thoughts on the current state of the cattle market here as we move through the first half of September.
I think what's changed since you and I spoke last was I think I was talking about pulling off some hedges, that the market was very well balanced. But then all of a sudden we had a situation where the equities markets took a nosedive, and we had a situation where the dollar shot higher. That's a red flag for the consumption. I think one thing that and I addressed this in my most recent copy over the weekend, I started my 2022 livestock forecast for prices, and I'm looking at better prices than USDA is forecasting for 2022, Jesse, by about 3 to 4%. So it's a lot higher, relatively speaking, for producer prices. But I think that in the short term, we have a situation where if the equities go lower and the dollar goes higher, I think the funds who are very, very long are going to be very sensitive to that the consumption issue is still an issue to have to contend with, especially now that we're out of grilling season. And I've made this point to several others, and I can't reinforce it enough, but you have a lot of Asia, Australia, China, the Philippines, several other countries having a zero tolerance policy towards COVID. And I think that's really hurting their economy and really hurting their consumption. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. I'm just saying the bottom line is if you're going to get zero cases of COVID, especially with the variant like the Delta variant, you're probably going to have to shut everything down. That means no consumption. And I think that's what the market's very sensitive to now, especially after last week's jobs report here in the United States. The enthusiasm of the global economy going into 2022 is a lot murkier now, and that enthusiasm's cut way back, I think, because of what's happened in the jobs numbers and some of the other economic data in China. And I think this is where the trade's getting it right. They probably had a bubble in the financial markets, but that's going to impact us in the livestock as well. And with higher retail prices, we're going to be extra sensitive in our export market. That's a big point I try and make in 2022. If my prices are going to be higher than USDA's, it's going to be because we export more. We don't have to worry about domestic backwash of supply.
I also asked Mike his thoughts on the news of mad cow disease appearing in Brazil once again and how that could impact the U.S. beef market.
Brazil has been a very big player in the Chinese beef market this past year, and the USDA's livestock update out of China from the attaché shows that very clearly, Jesse. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because that is kind of a great example of what I'm talking about, is that we are in a very sweet position to export more out the door if something like a mad cow disease would happen in another country that exports to one of our main countries like China. And we still have an Australian beef market that is trying to rebuild. So these are the types of things that I think really set us up for a nice, steady increase in 2022 for beef exports, because we need those, because I think our retail domestic demand here in the United States is going to flatline, if not slip a little bit, because of these higher prices.
And staying with the thought that the Delta variant of COVID could impact restaurant sales and more, and could impact the demand side for hogs, we talk about the hog market and his thoughts with where things could head here in the near term.
I think this is where the funds versus the fundamentals come back into play, is that the pork and bean trade is very much alive and kicking. And I think the pork cutout getting back up to around 110, 112 today, and finding it looks to be like a seasonal low maybe, that's really, really nice, because if it is, then the CME cash index trading just under $90 should have a window of opportunity of increasing $5, maybe even $8 at this point, and really supporting the front-end futures market at this critical time period. But I think the key with the hog market continues to be getting those shipments out to China. As long as we have export shipments of 30,000 tons or more a week, I don't think there's a lot of downside in the hogs other than just fund related downside. But then I think that lasts relatively short period of time, and then we come back to the fundamentals.
Again, that's Mike Zuzolo with Global Commodity Analytics joining me on last Wednesday's episode of Market Talk. You can find us online, markettalkag.com. This has been the Inside Farm Life Market Talk Update. I'm Jesse Allen reporting in Nashville.
And don't forget, you can find Jesse's daily market updates at markettalkag.com. Again, markettalkag.com. And you can find him by searching Market Talk on Facebook. He also appears on the American Ag Network, and you can hear him host Your Ag Today, weekday mornings about 6:50 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Satellite Radio, Rural Radio, Channel 147. Well, next up on Inside Farm Life, how much do you know about the battery fill for the battery in your farm equipment or your vehicle? On this week's installment of Bushels and Cents, our buddy the Hot Rod Farmer, Ray Bohacks, puts you in the know.
Welcome to Bushels and Cents on Farm Machinery Digest Radio, heard exclusively on Sirius XM Channel 147 Rural Radio. I am your host, Ray Bohacks, the Hot Rod Farmer from New Jersey. And never forget, it is not what you make, but what you keep that counts. In the middle 1970s, General Motors introduced a sealed and maintenance-free battery. It had a flat top and no caps. They were excellent batteries, contrary to what many thought. They were internally different. The caps were not just eliminated. Most modern batteries still allow for the topping of electrolyte, but the caps may be flush or slightly recessed, giving the impression that they are not serviceable. Study your batteries and determine which ones will allow service. Often a small screwdriver is required to remove the fill caps. Agriculture runs on machinery, profits on reliability. Visit farmmachinerydigest.com, where steel and soil meet.
And as always, you can check out all of Ray Bohacks' great multimedia content at farmmachinerydigest.com. And you can hear him host Farm Machinery Digest Radio on SiriusXM Satellite Radio, Rural Radio, Channel 147. It airs each Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern and again on Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern, so I hope you go and give him a listen. Well, next up on Inside Farm Life, it's time to take things back to the country. And this week, we introduce you to a familiar voice on the show because he's been a part of the show since the start. You might know Jesse Allen is a gifted farm broadcaster, but you might not know that he's also an emerging country artist out of Nashville, Tennessee, by way of Iowa. And this week, he drops a new single that we're going to talk about here in a bit. But before we do, Jesse, welcome back to Inside Farm Life.
Hey, Brent, thanks for having me. And, we're seeing a lot of each other lately. We saw each other live at the Farm Progress Show talking ag stuff, and now seeing you on video, and you're having me on the show here, and I really appreciate the time, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, anytime I can get with you, man, I'm glad to do it. Yeah, last week we talked about agriculture from Decatur, Illinois, and this week we're reconvening to talk country music here, and it's a special week for you because not only are you releasing the new single, but it was a year ago this week that you said goodbye to your Iowa home and made the trek to Nashville. What has that experience been like for you?
Man, and it kind of snuck up on me. I didn't purposely plan to release a new single on the 1-year anniversary of me moving here full time. It just kind of happened, and I was looking and I was like, oh, well, that's a random coincidence that probably happened, not by fate or anything. It was probably meant to happen that way. But it was a big step for me. I've been coming to Nashville and recording down here for years and kind of doing the flying back and forth, driving back and forth. And finally, just last year, I just said it was time to go. I felt like I was just creatively drained in Iowa, and just needed a change of scenery, needed a change of pace. And honestly, last year's been great. I've had my fair share of ups and downs. Everybody has those. Plus, moving during a pandemic doesn't make anything easier. But really settling in and just trying to find my champions here in Nashville. Everybody's got them, and the community's so welcoming. And I already knew a lot of people, so that made the transition a lot easier. Just trying to juggle everything going on with a farm broadcasting career and a music career and touring and everything else, and just trying to find a foothold and a place in town. But really excited for this new single to come out, and just it's kind of like the new chapter. I put out my first EP in 2018, and I put out another single to start of 2020, and that was supposed to lead into a new project, and then the world stopped, and so I just kind of took a break and took a seat and said, okay, where do I want to go with my music? And that's kind of what this new single "Break It Up These Days" represents, and it's just going to be the first in a line of new stuff coming from me here as we wrap up the year and head into 2022. And I'm just really excited for people to hear kind of the evolution of my sound and see where things are going.
So to really get a feel for you, we want to take things back to the beginning. Tell me about growing up in Iowa and who some of the influences that you had were.
Man, growing up in Iowa, I mean, small town Iowa kid, 200 some people. I grew up, my graduating class was 50. But I was singing since I was a little kid. My dad, probably my biggest influence on me out of everybody. He was a musician. He was a drummer and a singer. He toured, the lower 48 states through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and him and my mom ran a bar restaurant in that small town. I grew up singing in there. I was 3 years old. I was running around with a microphone on Friday and Saturday nights doing karaoke at 8 o'clock at night. What 3, 4-year-old is in a bar at 8 o'clock on a Friday night singing karaoke? But I don't know. It's always been in my blood, and it's just kind of evolved from there. And years of playing live and kind of building my touring base. Started just myself, playing acoustically, and played with some other bands, and then kind of went out and did the front man thing myself. And it's really just evolved over time, and I've gotten to share stages with a lot of big artists, and just really enjoyed what has come from my career so far as a country artist, and hoping for more. It's really just, I think growing up in Iowa gave me those small town roots to work hard. And I know that this industry, it's a tough uphill battle. There's so many of us who are trying our best to make it, and not everyone makes it. I just continue to work hard and keep putting music out there, and hopefully it resonates with people. And that's kind of my goal. And outside of my dad, I mean, I'm a 90th century guy. Garth Brooks is a huge influence on me. George Strait, Colin Ray, Black Hawk, and then a lot of the newer country rock guys too. Eric Church, Jason Aldean, Luke Combs, that kind of sound. You kind of throw those two sounds together, maybe sprinkled with a little bit of rock and roll, because I'm a rockhead at heart too. And you kind of get my sound then. But I also like to say my sound is a little unique. It's not one of I don't know if it can be pigeonholed into country rock or pop country or outlaw country or whatnot. It's just me. And that's kind of always been my goal, and hopefully people resonate with that, and it sticks with them and they enjoy it.
So one of the aspects of this is songwriting. When did you really get into the craft of songwriting?
Man, I would say probably about 2017. I had left the band that I was playing for, and had started to go out on my own and play some acoustic shows, and didn't have a band of my own, and kind of started diving into songwriting. And when I wrote my first single to radio, Bad, that was kind of when the light bulb clicked. I'd written some stuff before that, but it was just kind of like, this is okay. This isn't that great. And then I wrote that song, and it's almost like a light switch flipped on. And from there, just been writing and writing constantly, and trying to improve my writing and get better. And, most everything I've released, I've written myself. And that's not a knock on co-writing or anything else. It's just how it's happened, and that's what this new single is. This is another one that I just self-penned. But songwriting to me is, I love it just as much as performing. And I've grown to love it. And I've grown to, have a love-hate relationship with it sometimes when you get in a creative rut. But being in Nashville too really opened my eyes to even more. And it helps me, step up my game a little bit. And that's kind of what I needed, I think, just to kind of take the next step. But songwriting for me, it came later in the process. It wasn't instantly. I learned how to play guitar and learned how to play blues licks and stuff way before I ever attempted writing songs. But it just it naturally just kind of came into focus for me, and I haven't looked back since.
When you first started making connections in Nashville, how did you go about getting yourself plugged into town? Maybe not even before you moved there, but earlier than that. How did you start making those connections that are now starting to pay dividends?
So the funny thing about that is that, my farm broadcasting, I did that. And I was also the program director for a country station in Iowa. And that's how I got to meet pretty much everybody. And I don't mean to like say that, oh, I took that job for granted and used it to get to where I'm at now, but I mean, I guess in a way I kind of did. Um, I met a lot of great people, and that's really what opened certain doors for me. I met my producer, Joe Costa from Joe and Martina. I met them through their radio tour stopping at my station. We became great friends. I've met so many other people who I became great friends with. I met promoters and bookers and publicists and you name it. I met all these people through running that radio station and being, the guy there where they're all trying to get their music played by me. And on the flip side of that, I got to see that side of the industry. And that really, I think, helped me know which roads to go down in Nashville and which roads to stay away from, because you see that side, it's a totally different side. You get to see the aspect of trying to get your songs played on the radio and streaming and everything that goes into that. And it's eye-opening, but it also was a blessing because it kept me from, you know, going and spending tens of thousands of dollars on something that I didn't need to spend on at this point in my career. And really for me, it all comes back to that job with country radio. And I shouldn't say job. I did enjoy it quite a bit, and it was part of my career, and it was a springboard for me, and it was, time for me to move on from that part of my career to fully focus on this, because I felt like I had made as many connections as I was going to make in country radio, and to where it was now or never to move to Nashville. But that really is what opened the doors for me.
Well, and you also had quite a few friends that were prodding you along the way to make that move too, didn't you?
Yeah, friends, family, a lot of people that, I kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to Nashville," and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, and let us know when that actually happens." And then there was quite a few that were like, "What are you still doing here?" And so they were all very, very happy when I finally made the move. They were sad that I'm not around as much anymore, but at the same time, they were just like, "No, we know you need to be there. You should have left a long time ago," kind of vibe. And it's been great, the support that I have from everyone back home, and the support that I have from my friend community in Nashville too. It's crazy to think about as well. Um, my drummer and my guitar player from Iowa moved here with me last year. Just I called him up and I told him, hey, I'm leaving, fully expecting them to say, "Well, hey, man, it's been fun." And no, they were both like almost instantly ready to go with me. And I think I lose sight of that sometimes, going, man, these guys, and they're two of my best friends, believe in what, I've been doing and what we've been building, that they wanted to move with me. Um, it's just crazy to me. So I think that's a testament to the support that I have behind me, and trying to open as many doors as possible.
Well, you mentioned earlier about kind of going about building a grassroots fan base over the past few years, and you haven't abandoned your Midwestern roots. Since things opened up, you've had the opportunity to play quite a few shows around Iowa and Minnesota, and you've really been burning up the roads there between the upper Midwest and Nashville.
A lot, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of travel for sure. And, some of that was attributed to the pandemic, canceled some shows in 2020. And so we rolled them to 2021. But at the same time too, I don't ever want to not play my home state or play in the Midwest. I love people there, and is where my base is to start. But we're also doing our best to expand past that. I know we have some shows this fall. We're going out west. We're going to the East Coast, just trying to expand a little bit more. And a lot of folks were like, hey, when I moved to Nashville, like, "Oh, so you playing on Broadway, you doing this?" I'm like, "No, we're touring." And I don't want, people to lose sight of that. We're going to be out on the road. We're going to be back in the Midwest. We're going to try and go to new places across the country because I want to try and have as many people as I can hear my music and see our live show and enjoy. And that's the goal. And I might go broke doing it, but we will give it our best shot.
Well, that's the interesting thing with a lot of artists. It seems like, you make your home base in Nashville and you use that scene there to kind of try out new material and kick the tires just to make sure that it's road worthy, so to speak. But then, the real work is done taking it outside of Nashville where everybody is fighting for every inch of real estate there. And you start to build niches throughout the United States and pockets of fan base. And that's really how a career is born, isn't it?
It is. And there's so many ways that people can get discovered. And, it's not lost on me anytime, someone interviews me and talks to me about my music, like you're doing right now, Brent. I mean, it's every new fan that I can make, regardless of whether it's 1 or 1,000, whether we're playing a show or I'm doing an interview or whatever. Somebody stumbles across my music on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. That's important to me. And like I said, I'll go broke touring the country and doing whatever I can to try and make this work just because I believe in myself and I believe in the music that I'm making. And I believe that people, there's a place for it and that people will enjoy it. And, I told everyone, I said, I'm going to give this a solid, honest run and we're going to see what happens. And, I know it's a hard road. And for me, it's even harder because I'm acting as artist, songwriter, manager, booking agent, everything. I'm doing a lot of these things myself just because I haven't found every little piece to my team yet. And I think that comes with time. I think that comes with a lot of sweat equity and hard work. And a lot of artists who, are on the rise now or have made it, they'll look back and say, yeah, I did a lot of that coming up. And I think eventually it goes back to my Midwestern roots. Hard work pays off. And I fully believe that hard work will pay off at some point here in the near future, hopefully, to where, it's a little bit easier on me as the artist. But at the same time, I still enjoy the hard work. And I just love the chance to get out and build that career. And like I said, every single fan matters to me.
Well, at the same time, you're trying to build that career and build that fan base. All you had to do was move to Nashville for things to pick up on the farm broadcasting end during the COVID lockdown. How do you balance being an artist and being a broadcaster?
No sleep.
And a lot of coffee.
That's the best answer I could give. No, it's a labor of love because I love both things. And, I never thought that my farm broadcasting work would continue the way it has. The podcast, Market Talk, that's really taken off. My work with the American Ag Network, that kind of came out of nowhere. But being able to work remotely, being able to do my job from anywhere means that, if we're on the road Friday in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, all I need is my laptop, my microphone, and my gear, a book bag full of a couple of things, and I could do my job. So it's communication, a lot of balance. I have a great team with the network that I can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be tied up from 11 a.m. to 1 on Friday. We got a sound check or something like, hey, can you fill in for me? And usually, yep, sure, no problem. Happy to pinch hit. And, same with the podcast. Like, one day, I might get it done right away at right after the close of 1:30, and the next day it might be 4:00. I try my best to keep it consistent, and there's just a little bit of ebb and flow and kind of massaging the schedule. But all in all, so far, fingers crossed, knock on wood, I made it all work, and I haven't lost too much sleep yet.
So what's on the bucket list for you as an artist?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. For me right now, I just want to get new music out to people. That's kind of my short-term goal. Because I haven't had anything new out since the beginning of 2020, and before that, it had been almost 2 years. And so now I'm at the point where I'm just chomping at the bit. I've been writing all these new songs, and I want people to hear them And then two, my bucket list is I want to get out and tour more and play a lot of these new venues. I mean, bigger things on the bucket list. I'd love to have a record deal, love to have a publishing deal, but I know those aren't the be all end all necessarily anymore either. There's a lot of independent artists who make a great career and a great living being independent. So there's a lot of things I could say on the bucket list, but I think for me, I just want people to hear my music and I want to have a long, vibrant career in this industry. I think that's what it all comes down to. I could set little goals, big goals, bucket list things. That's kind of, for me, that's what it comes down to. I guess if I had to throw one like bucket list thing out there, open for my man Garth. I think that'd be a good time.
There you go. Well, I tell you what, you're off to a good start with this new single here. Tell us about that one. Where did it come from? Where was the inspiration?
So Breaking Up These Days, I wrote it before I moved to Nashville. A couple months before, I was in Iowa. I was stuck in this rut. Went through a real bad breakup, a lot of depression, just a lot of, I was not feeling like myself. I was at a place I'd never been before in my life. And just, I sat down one day and I had this idea, and the song itself's a little different too, because, I'm doing a little bit of speak singing in it, kind of like the Sam Hunt style, which, I mean, I'm a fan of Sam Hunt's songwriting and, and some of his production as well. And that it's just, it was a totally different vibe for me. Or maybe you think about Colt Ford or some of those guys that kind of do a little more speak singing. And, I sat down with this idea and of breaking up these days and how hard it is to break up nowadays, because you have all the social media, you're so connected to people that it's not like the old days where if you broke up, you didn't see them, you didn't know what was going on. And so that was kind of the thought process behind it. And I sat down with this idea one day, and I think it was maybe 15, 20 minutes later, and I had the song. And I immediately texted my producer, Joe Costa, and I just said, hey, man, I have a new song. I need to cut this now and get this out there. And then the funny thing is that I wrote it, but part of why I was going through trouble too is that I had caught COVID right when this all began, like February of last year, late February. And it took away my singing voice. I think there was probably 7-8 months there I couldn't sing. And I didn't know if I was going to sing again. And so in the process, I was trying to push myself through to do this song. And Joe was in California visiting family, and he put together this great track and everything else and great players on it. And I ended up actually being in Arizona last summer with my former bass player. And I said, well, hey, I'll do vocals at his house. We'll get this done. And I think I did 25, 30 takes, and none of them were happy. I was not happy with any of them vocally. So I put it on the shelf, waited till I moved to Nashville, waited till Joe got back to Nashville, was feeling better, walked in the studio. I think 2 takes, we had it. And so I knew right there that I turned a corner. I knew I was feeling better, and I knew that this had to be the first single off a project. And it's like I said earlier, it's just a chapter. It's the next chapter. We're turning the page, and I'm kind of like shutting that last chapter of my life that I had. I'm kind of alluding to that, and then also looking forward, just with the sound and everything that's there. And I'm so excited for people to hear this song and to hear everything else that I'm working on as well. But this is kind of like that. This is the, okay, we were driving down this road, and now we're turning the corner, and I'm so excited for it.
Well, I'm excited for you to hear it too. So here it is now. This is Jesse Allen with his new single, Breaking Up These Days, on Inside Farm Life.
Modern love, yeah, it's hard to forget. You can't move on like our parents did. You see pictures you don't want to see. It's like your own show on reality TV. Try your best to get rolled back in. Every time you open Instagram, you see them moved on at the speed of light. do your best just to put up a fight. Why is it so hard to move on when you know that it was all wrong? Guess some of us just love too much, let our hearts get left in the dust by the taillights of their leaving, messing you up without a good reason, leaving you with a permanent scar, breaking up these days so damn hard. You see the folks at the grocery store, they just look the other way as you walk out the door. Nothing they can say will heal your heart. You know, seeing them just tears you apart. They probably think you're a bad guy. Everything they've heard, few truths and a lot of lies. It really sucks because you never be looked at the same. The thing is, you're not the only one to blame. Why is it so hard to move on when you know that it was all wrong? Guess some of us just love too much, let our hearts get left in the dust by the taillights of their leaving, messing you up without a good reason, and leaving you with a permanent scar, breaking up these days so damn hard. Breaking up so hard these days, 'cause everywhere you turn to see their face, can't get away from them as much as you try. Why is it so hard to move on when you know that it was all wrong? Guess some of us just love too much, let our hearts get left in the dust by the taillights of their leaving, messing you up without a good reason, and leaving you with a permanent scar, breaking up these days so damn hard.
So what is the plan for new music? I know a lot of artists, have become very focused on producing singles, and they're kind of out on a rhythm of every 60 to 120 days. Do you have any kind of schedule like that for yourself, or are you just kind of taking them one at a time right now?
That's kind of the plan. You know, originally I had a much bigger plan of, hey, I'm gonna get 4 or 5 songs done. We're gonna hold everything until I have all of these songs done, and then we're gonna go. And you know, I just got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm touring right now. I don't have anything new. I'm like, I'm gonna put Breaking Up These Days out because I know I'm gonna get the other music done, and I have a couple more singles that are done or almost done, and so kind of the plan is kind of that model everyone's been doing, you know, somewhere between 60, 120 days. So probably sometime in October, into early November, I'll have another single coming out, and then hopefully, you know, by the beginning of next year, either going to have another single come out or going to have a EP come out. And a lot of that just kind of depending on how this all goes, timeline wise. Like I said, I know for me, the songs are done. I know what songs I want to do. A lot of it's just getting in the studio, getting the studio time, and juggling that around my busy schedule. But we do have a couple things done, so this isn't just going to be a one and done for another year. There will be more coming very, very soon, and I'm excited for people to hear it.
Well, the folks want to follow all things Jesse Allen on the music front. Where can they go to do that?
The easiest thing, jacountry.com, or if you're on socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff's just Jesse Allen Music. And you can find me Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, all that good stuff. Pandora, just search for Jesse Allen. You'll see me. You'll see my picture. And that's the easiest way. Find us if we're touring near you, or let us know if you want us to come tour somewhere where you're at. We'd love to we'd love to hear that. Me and the guys in the band always enjoy going to a new venue. And so, yeah, just find me there. Again, the easiest, jacountry.com.
Well, Jesse, we're proud to have you as part of the Inside Farm Life family, and we thank you for the time today, and we hope you'll come back again and again to share that new music with us.
Dude, Brent, I appreciate the time. Thanks for having me, for everything, and I appreciate being with you here, and thanks for letting me talk about the music a little bit. I appreciate it.
And we want to thank you so much for joining us this week. And if you haven't already done so, we invite you to subscribe to the Inside Farm Life podcast, where each week we bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot-button industry issues, educational features, and the best in true country music. The Inside Farm Life podcast can be found at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Deezer, Audible, Odyssey, and YouTube. We want to say a special thank you to our friends at AGCO, the presenting sponsor of this week's show. You can find out all about them and their brands at agcocorp.com. We also want to say a special thank you to our additional sponsors, GoatLifeClothing.com, Concept Agritech, and Gateway Seed. Well, friends and neighbors, the clock on the wall tells us it's time to get on out of here. So until next time, it's Brent Adams. Let's meet up here again next week, shall we? And hey, bring along a friend.
You've been listening to Inside Farm Life, a production of Farm Life Media. If you have topic suggestions for future episodes, drop us a line at brent@farmlifemedia.com. And be sure to check out our website, farmlifemedia.com.